thing of beauty.
Welcome on in. Chicago Fire Weekly is presented by CIBC, the official bank of your Chicago Fire. As we are each and every week, we are live at the Heineken Pub 97 here at the CIBC Fire Pitch. Fred Hubner, Paul Tenorio, and Frank Klopas. We will talk plenty of Chicago Fire soccer during this hour. But the biggest story going right now, the U.S. men's national team, for the first time since 1986, will not be going to the World Cup after a 2-1 loss to Trinidad and Tobago yesterday. And guys, I'm not sure where to go. We could do 3 hours on a show on this topic. But Frank, you're a guy that played for the U.S. men's national team. How's this feel, and what were your feelings last night?
It's hard, you know. I mean, it's been tough last night. I mean, I watched the game again very late into the night, and you know, my wife was trying to talk to me. I said, please, this is not the moment right now. And then again today, it's obviously devastating. It's a huge blow. It's a setback. I think a massive one. You know. And I think for me, I always say a couple things. I think that the game, you can never cheat the game. You know, and I think that. Mistakes, I think, that have been made in the past, coaching decisions. We can go into a lot of things. I think all came to the forefront in a situation like that. And I think with any setback, as difficult as it is, hopefully that you can look at it and improve and make some decisions. I think which need to be made to overhaul the whole soccer federation, top to bottom, which is needed. But it's a tough day today.
Yeah, it really is. You look at it, and the goal is always in the Hex is to win your home games, try to get some points on the road. The USA failed in both of those. They had 3 wins total. They looked miserable yesterday. They did not even look good throughout the entire course of the game. We hear excuses, the tough pitch and everything was muddy and slow moving. Trinidad was able to play on it. Paul, there's so many things we can get into right now.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is it was an embarrassment. It is an embarrassment for U.S. soccer, for the U.S. men's national team, for the players that were on that field last night, for Bruce Arena, for Jurgen Klinsmann. Let's not pretend that he doesn't have a role in this. And for Sunil Gulati. This is a team that the baseline expectation for this team is to qualify for the World Cup. Coming out of the CONCACAF region, there is no excuse why you shouldn't. The roster decisions, the lineup decisions, I think this is a very savable shot by Tim Howard. Look how early he jumps and where the ball is when he jumps. To go into this game with an attacking lineup on a bad field in a situation where all you need is a point, and to not bring a midfielder next to Michael Bradley was crazy. But I don't even care about that. Let's leave last night's result aside, and let's talk about the big picture here. From Jurgen Klinsmann's era, where you lose at home to Mexico and get trounced on the road at Costa Rica, to Bruce Arena taking over and losing at home to Costa Rica and then losing on the road here to Trinidad, this team has failed to do what they should have done on the field, to get the results they should have gotten. The talent is there to do it. But there is an overconfidence that permeates throughout the entirety of U.S. soccer and to an extent Major League Soccer, that they have arrived, that they are there, that the talent is good enough, that the league is good enough, that the players are good enough. And they went into last night with that overconfidence thinking they were already at the World Cup. And Frank, they weren't at the World Cup. Well, and they played the first 45 minutes like they had their tickets printed out to Russia. And they were not there yet. And they got handed a big lesson, and you hope that the lesson is taken from Trinidad and applied to everything that's done with soccer in this country.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, look, like in life, I think the game humbles people, and I think I agree with you. I think there is a lot of arrogance from top to bottom, and then we've seen it, and you can even just see some of the comments afterwards, you know, that you look at. And you're right, I'm not even going to go and talk about the tactics and the game, the decision-making, this or that, but I do agree with you in the sense that this team, especially when you look at the hacks and the way, you know, when you're 4 teams go through. Even the 4th team is an opportunity in the playoffs. You didn't even put yourself in a situation to do that. I mean, that to me is really mind-boggling, you know, and that's the difficult part about this, and it's such a big blow, really. And but sometimes, like I said, you look at setbacks. I think Maybe one was needed because there's a lot of changes have to be made. A lot of decisions that were made have gotten us into this point, and I think you have to be humble. This humility has to set in at times, and there was a lot of arrogance from a lot of people, and then I think that the game itself smacks you down. And I think, look, as difficult as it is, because it is difficult, Paul, right now. I think the league is going to suffer. U.S. soccer is going to suffer. And you said, we talked about it earlier, it's going to be over 600 days, maybe before another competitive match is played at an international level. That's a long time away to wait.
The arrogance that we're talking about was on display last night after the game. U.S. soccer got knocked out of the World Cup against the last place team in Trinidad, and Bruce Arena gets up and says no major changes are needed to U.S. soccer. And Sunil Gulati gets up and says, should 2 inches, one way or the other, change whether there's change needed? Should that alter it? The naivety of that quote stands out to me as more than egregious. It's an insult. It's an insult to the intelligence of the fans in this country, and it's an insult to the intelligence of the media who cover the teams. There was not 1 or 2 or 3 inches that caused the U.S. to miss the World Cup last night. There were multiple results over many months and over 2 coaches, both of whom were hired by Sunil Gulati. And the same goes for Bruce Arena, who came in and was smug after the game against Panama, treating the media like we had doubted him, and look how dumb we were. And then he didn't get into the World Cup. And so this is a bigger problem, and it starts on the youth fields, and it moves its way up to Major League Soccer. And new leadership is needed at every level of U.S. soccer, from the president to the coach to the technical director, and massive, massive change is necessary within the entire organization.
When the hex begins, when I always think about it, I go, okay, it's going to be a battle of Mexico and the USA from 1 and 2. Costa Rica has shown they've gotten better. Panama with a win. Honduras with a win. You wonder sometimes, MLS was put here so that the players in this country could get better and have a place to play. It almost seems like some of those countries are taking more of a benefit from MLS than the U.S. players are.
The U.S. players have to challenge themselves more, whether they stay at home or go abroad. And the MLS has to move forward. Major League Soccer has to move forward, become more of a selling league, and start developing these players at 18, 19, 20, and being willing to sell them on to Europe and allow them to push themselves there as the league grows. It can go hand in hand. Players can be sold overseas and developed, and Major League Soccer can benefit as a result, and that's a big part of this process too.
We'll talk a lot more about what the U.S. men's national team does here going forward. Also, some other comments from Bruce Arena we have not been able to get to. Don't forget the Chicago Fire headed for the playoffs. 2 more games remaining, including this Sunday, a 4 o'clock start at Toyota Park, presented by Michael Hill Jewelers. You can get your tickets at chicago-fire.com/tickets. The final regular season home match this Sunday, the Fire hosting the Philadelphia Union Fan Appreciation Day, presented by Michael Hill Jewelers. As a thank you to the Fire fans for all of the support this season, Michael Hill Jewelers will be at the match, giving fans a chance to register to win one of their signature diamond rings along with other great prizes. Get on out there as the Fire wrap up their home schedule before the postseason gets underway. We come back, we'll talk more about the U.S. men's national team being out. First time since '86. It's Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by CIBC.
Heineken tastes perfect every single time, and that doesn't happen by accident. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster, almost as long as it took me to master this look.
She came to meet a man. She found an angel. Good, ba-da-ba-check. What's his name now? Good, ba-da-ba-check.
Still practicing. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster. There's more beyond the star.
The heat will wear you out real quick. And we've been through some hot ones. It's very physical. You gotta take care of your body and stay hydrated because every moment matters. That's why I drink Advocare Hydrate. I've got a job to do.
Why would you go out of your way and wander around a warehouse for paint when you can just swing by your local Ace? Ace has top-rated paint like Valspar, can match any color, and mixes it with something that's hard to find. Award-winning service. Because the way we see it, if anyone is going to go out of their way,
it should be us.
it's the Ace Extra Mile promise. If it ever takes more than one trip to complete your paint project, we'll bring you what you need, and delivery is free.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Welcome back in. Chicago Fire Weekly presented by CIBC. We're discussing the U.S. men's national team, not only the 2-1 loss to Trinidad, but being out of the World Cup for the first time since 1986. Grant Wall called it the most surreal and embarrassing night in U.S. soccer history. A lot of people were very, very excited going into this qualifying because of Christian Pulisic. And now we get a kid like this, 19 years old, unable to play in the World Cup.
Yeah, but not only him. I think I agree with Paul. I mean, the players were there. The quality of players, I mean, the international players are brought. I mean, even the players that are playing within this league here. I mean, you look at the Hacks, and I'm going to not, take anything away. It is a tough place to play, especially on the road, because you see that you got to deal at times with difficult playing conditions, this or that. But, to get 3 teams through and have a playoff team, the last World Cup, you know how many wins Mexico had to get through in the Hacks? 2 wins. And they were in the playoff team.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the difficult part for me to accept. In a situation like that, yeah, we can talk about Mexico being a powerhouse again. Costa Rica, Paul, I know you're waiting for that, which is always a powerhouse. But, I mean, those are the top 3 teams that always should be there. I mean, you look at the Hacks. So for me, it's a difficult pill to swallow today,
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that the U.S. Frank, when you were part of this team that qualified in 90 and then played in 94, hosted in 94, what was the pro scene like with the guys that you were playing with back in 89 when Caligiuri hit the shot heard around the world? What was it like? How many guys played professionally in outdoor soccer?
I think Caligiuri, myself, maybe 2 or 3 guys that were playing abroad. It was mostly guys that have been, put together. We were, and that's the mentality with the U.S. players. We never gave up. We were very organized. We were a very fit team.
But look, if you look at this team and where this league is now, it's not perfect. It's not one of the best leagues in the world. But the resources that they have, the money that some of these guys make, the expectation is to get to the World Cup.
Yes.
They finished 5th out of 6 in the Hex.
I agree with you.
It's unbelievable.
Well, that's why I look at the players too, and I look at a situation like last night and the way the game was approached and the players that went on the field. And for me, that was a disappointing thing about it, because you had the players to get a result. If you're saying I need 1 point to get into the World Cup and I'm playing TNT, I'm not saying that it's an easy game. Let's not. But I mean, you had the players, and I think for me, the player selection that were put on display last night, I mean, for me, that's what it goes. So I have to put a lot of blame also on head coach Bruce Arena, because he came in with his experience qualifying teams in the Hacks to get us through this process, and it was worse than what it was before.
Look at the roster from last night and the lineup from last night. And I want to talk a little bit more big picture here. There's a massive hole in American development that occurred, and let's be honest, it occurred during the Jurgen Klinsmann era. There are 10 players from last night's roster that are 30 and older. There are 4 that are in maybe 5 that you would say are in their prime. And then there were 4 that are younger players that could potentially factor in the next World Cup. There is a massive hole between the Tim Howards and DeMarcus Beasleys of the world and the Christian Pulisics and Kellen Acostas of the world. We know that because 2 under-23 teams failed to qualify for the Olympics, 2 of them in a row under Jurgen Klinsmann. That leaves a major, major task moving forward for this national team, because you failed on the biggest possible level that you could fail by missing the World Cup. And now you have 4.5 years to figure it out before 2022. And there are some big questions about who fills those holes, where those players are going to come from. And the job of whoever steps into the head coaching position is to find that talent and be willing to call that talent in. Because Bruce Arena said some things last night that just, it really irked me, Fred, and I know you've got the quote.
Well, he said that if this squad made the World Cup, there were going to be changes to the roster. And as soon as he said that, I'm saying to myself, well, hold it. Then those changes should have been made leading up to this. And during the qualifying, they should have been made.
You have to be willing to sometimes bring good players in, even if they're not ready for those, you think they're not ready for those big moments. There's only one way you can find out, Frank. And putting players on the field who aren't good enough or are too old to perform at the highest possible levels, or they're your guys, is not the way to run a national team with the amount of talent that the U.S. is now producing. Jeff Cameron sat on the bench for 2 must-win qualifiers. He's a starter in the English Premier League for Stoke City. And Omar Gonzalez played both games. This is the same Omar Gonzalez who made the mistakes against Costa Rica at home that led to goals and had the own goal.
Well, did you see him in Honduras also, though? It's not like that the back line was performing. That's why it was, for me, it's like, you're right. It's a comfort level. Like, this is the guys that I know and I feel comfortable. I mean, for me, I know he got injured, but you bring a guy in also, Zardes, that he felt very comfortable with. And I know the guy got injured. Maybe we wouldn't have seen him, but you never know. Maybe he's another guy that you would have put that some of these guys, and I'm not saying Gonzalez, but some of these guys are not even performing well at the league here, and then you get called in. Yeah, for me, that's the disappointing part, because it's somebody, you know, Bruce Arena has had a lot of success in this league. You know, he's guided in the past the national team, and you brought him in a situation where, listen, I felt before, and I was kind of joking, because blindfolded you can qualify in the Hex. And with the quality of players that we have, I think we should have been able to do so, and that's where this, for me, takes us back. It's
1 week ago tonight, we were sitting here with Brian Dunseth because Paul was in Orlando with the U.S. men's national team, and you wrote an article on 442. I don't remember the exact, what would happen if the U.S. doesn't qualify? When you wrote that article, did you even think that was possible?
You know, I did, but it was funny in the reporting of it, everyone I spoke to said, this isn't going to happen, but I'll be willing to say it, as long as you make sure. You know, whether it was Harksey or Caligiuri or Ali Curtis, the people I spoke to they believed the U.S. would get it done. And Caligiuri, he spoke in the way that Frank is talking about. He talked about the American spirit and the way they step up and when they're the backs against the wall in those biggest moments. Well, guess what? That did not happen in Trinidad. They fell way flat of stepping up in the biggest moments, and it is going to and should cause drastic change.
We come back, we'll talk a little bit more about that change, what could possibly happen. Also, we'll get ready to take a look at what happened on Sunday night here in Chicago, the Chicago Cultural Center, the 20th anniversary of the Chicago Fire. We'll discuss that when we come back. Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by CIBC.
Here come the Hawks, the mighty Black Hawks. Take the attack, yeah, and we'll back you, Black Hawks. You're flying high now, so let's wrap it up. Let's go, you Hawks. Move on. Now all the Hawks. Here come the Hawks. Here comes the Hawks. Here comes the Hawks. Here comes the Hawks. Here comes the Hawks.
It's Ford SUV season, so be ready with features designed to detect what they don't.
Stop.
Sorry.
It's okay.
That's Ford, and that's how you become America's most trusted brand of SUVs. During SUV season, get $4,800 cash back on Explorer, $4,500 on Edge, or $4,250 on Escape. That's big cash back on Ford's lineup of sport utilities or lease Escape for $199 a month during SUV season at your local Ford stores.
In case you need anything, just give me a call. Thank you.
P.O. Box 17. Of course I'm a real company.
You got the area code.
Everything your customers see tells a story. Let the UPS store help you tell the right one. From business cards and banners to expertly packed shipments to mailboxes with a real street address. Come in today for help.
Mariah Haberman here from Discover Wisconsin. Join me and the rest of the DW crew every week on this station for all things Wisconsin. Find us on social media right now for gorgeous photos and great Wisconsin giveaways. Speaking of free stuff, did you know every month we give away an exciting vacation? This month you could win a prize package to Sheboygan. Just visit discoverwisconsin.com for details. Saturday mornings at 10 on NBC Sports Chicago.
Welcome back in. Chicago Fire Weekly presented by CIBC. Frank Lopez, Paul Tenorio, Fred Hubner still a little dumbfounded by what happened, and not only last night, but the entire World Cup qualifying, the U.S. not making the World Cup for the first time since 1986. And the biggest question, I think, is what do you guys think will happen, and what do you think should happen? Because those are two different things, two distinctly different things when it comes to U.S. soccer itself.
Well, I'll just start right away. I think, every time when things don't go well in a cycle, I think you look at a coach. So for me, when you have a setback like this, you have to look at the top. And I mean, Sunil Gulati's been there for a very long time, the president. I think a change needs to be made there. We talked about it, Paul. If there was anywhere else in the world, I think the thing today, you would come out, you'd get a resignation letter, say, thank you. I've served my time. I've served it well. I think he's done some very good things, but it's time for him to move on. And then I think obviously finding a replacement as a head coach. And I do agree with Paul, because I think the decisions he made in the past, I think coaching decisions for me, I disagree with him. And I think even when they brought a guy like Jürgen Klinsmann and they gave him the authority to be kind of like the coach, but also the guy responsible for setting the curriculum, it's just too many things to do. So I think you got to bring a coach that can be focused on doing one thing, and then maybe hire a person in the background, almost like the teams do here, a technical director, a GM, that can kind of, oversee all other aspects, whether it's scouting, identifying players, curriculum, all that stuff underneath them. So just a few things on top, But I think with any problem like this, Paul, I think the good thing is that changes need to be made. You got to look at these things, and then hopefully you make the right moves and move forward and create a better environment.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything Frank said. I think a technical director, a coach, I think there needs to be a technical director, a youth director, and a president of U.S. Soccer. All three of those people should have a responsibility for hiring the coach. It should not be just one person, the president of U.S. Soccer, and it certainly should not be Sunil Gulati making the next hire for coach. He should be gone. If he doesn't resign, he should be out in the election, but he should resign. And I think that triumvirate of leadership needs to pick the next head coach. And whoever the next head coach is needs to be somebody who can grow and develop young professional talent at the international level. Because like we talked about before, this is a group that needs to be groomed, from Weston McKennie to Christian Pulisic, Josh Sargent, Eric Palmer Brown, Justin Glad, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Matt Miazga, young players that are going to be trying to work their way into these positions. You need a coach who can develop talent, who understands how to work with youth and also work with some veterans. That's what the U.S. should be looking for. But multiple hires need to be made here.
We could do 3.5, 4 hours on the U.S. men's national team and their failure to make it. This is called Chicago Fire Weekly. This past Sunday, a really fun event, a really great event put on by the supporters of Section 8, as we were all able to attend the 20th anniversary celebration. October 8th of 97 is when the Chicago Fire first was announced that they would have the Major League Soccer coming to Chicago. A great event at the Cultural Center. You see some of the pictures. Andrew Hauptman, the owner of the team, Veljko Paunovic, a lot of the current players there. And Frank, you and a lot of the former players. There you see Bob Bradley, a former U.S. men's national team.
And
Hristo Stoichkov, one of the great players
there,
of
but
all
I was
time.
going to say Pavel Pardo, but I'm going to go back to Sunil. That's the first mistake he made, getting rid of Bob back then, and it started from there. But Paul, Fred, I mean, we all were there, and I think it was a great night because, I mean, the ability to see so many former players come back along with the first team and the coaching staff, and more than anything, just to spend time with the fans. And it was crazy because we saw so many fans that were there from the beginning, but also the new fans that have followed this team and talk about, the past, but also more importantly, just the present and how exciting this team is and all that. It was a great night.
Look, I'm a newcomer here to Chicago, relatively, still just a year and a half or so in to living here, and I just thought the event was super neat. I thought it was really, really a cool experience for fans to be able to come and celebrate alongside legends of the club, that they put together an event where they're paying to fly these people here because they care that much.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the setbacks of U.S. soccer at the World Cup, let's not ignore the growth of the sport in this country, that there are fans that exist that are willing to put on events like this, that have for 20 years now supported a club like the Chicago Fire. It's only going to continue to grow and be more passionate. But what a neat event to walk around and see fans mingling with the likes of Stoichkov and Frank and Bob Bradley, and the fact that those guys are willing to be there and hanging out with the fans as well was super cool.
Yeah, and I think you see, guys that have spent maybe little time here, Pavel Pardo and Chris Rolfe and Kovalenko and then Denev, and you said Stoichkov and Novak was here, Pabrozny that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yep.
But those guys, whether they played a couple years or even, the ability to put that Fire jersey on maybe for one season, there was that tremendous connection that we had, and they all kind of feel, and they still feel like this is their club, because of the work of the fans and the club and stuff like that. And it's great just to see all of us come together, celebrate the past, but the present, but more importantly, we talk so much about the future.
Two things I wanted to make sure I touched on. One of them is Bob Bradley was there. I went and had a chance to talk to him the same day that Egypt qualifies for the World Cup. He was the Egypt national team coach for a while. I told him, I said, you got to take a little bit of credit, and it was great. The Egyptian fan base was partying all over the place. The other thing is Johan Kappelhoff. I went up to talk to him. A lot of the current Fire players were there, and Kappelhoff said, this is 20 years. What was here before? He wanted to know what was here. I was telling him about the Sting. I was telling him about the 81 championship and other things. It was great to see the current guys come on out. They had a curfew, so they couldn't stay out too late, but it was nice to see the current guys come on out. And you'll get a chance to see the current guys this weekend, as Sunday the Chicago Fire play their final regular season home game. The Philadelphia Union come to town. It is a 4 o'clock start, presented by Michael Hill Jewelers. It is Fan Appreciation Day. Get your tickets now, chicago-fire.com/tickets. If you can't get on out, you can catch the game on NBCSCH Plus this weekend as the Chicago Fire take on the Philadelphia Union. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by CIBC.
The blades of a combat chopper spin at 380 RPMs. Not even close to an Echo trimmer. Now that's shock and awe. Power on and on.
If you have recently suffered an injury or had surgery, let the experts at NovaCare Rehabilitation get you back to an active lifestyle. Our comprehensive programs deliver the highest level of physical therapy, hand therapy, sports medicine, and work health rehabilitation. Our highly skilled therapists develop individualized treatment plans to exceed your expectations. So, don't live in pain. To request an appointment today, visit NovaCare.com. NovaCare, the power of physical therapy.
Don't let pain knock you out of the ring. Our hand, wrist, and elbow experts are pioneers worldwide. You need us in your corner. Midwest Orthopedics at Rush. Make an appointment today. After our minimally invasive spine surgery, 80% of golfers maintained or improved their handicap. Be treated by the pros to play more like a pro. Midwest Orthopedics at Rush. Make an appointment today.
Meet Jameson Caskmates, the newest member of our family. Triple distilled Irish whiskey, finished in craft stout barrels. The story of two neighbors, a distiller and a craft brewer, teaming up to create something new. The smoothness of Jameson and the character of a stout, together in one glass. So raise a glass to new tastes that become old favorites. Welcome Jameson Caskmates to the family.
What's more powerful than the winds of a Cat 5 hurricane? An Echo backpack blower. So, yeah, it'll clear a path. Power on and on.
Welcome back in. Time for Fire Field Vision, powered by NovaCare. Fred Hubner, Paul Tenorio, Frank Lopez. This week, the Chicago Fire with their final regular season home game at Toyota Park. And guys, we talked a couple weeks ago. You said, listen, you got D.C., you got Philadelphia, teams that you can't overlook. The Fire went to Philadelphia. I'm not saying they overlooked them, but Philadelphia put one on them. A little payback coming up this week as they get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, Paul, I mean, listen, we talked about, especially Philadelphia at home is a different team, and it was all about, They played a little bit different tactically. You know, they brought in Creval in there behind Medunanin and Bedoya, which I think helped. They got that early goal. I think they changed things a little bit. But I think there's still a lot to play for, you know. I mean, I think there's still an opportunity to move up the ladder. You know, third, second place is still there. You want to continue to play well heading into the postseason. That's another thing. And then the Fire home have been, you know, very good. So I think we have to see how they approach this game. Are they going to sit back a little bit more? But I think, Paul, I think at home, I think there's still a lot to play for this Fire team.
No doubt there's a lot to play for. Everything is up for grabs in the East. You've got to hold on to your home game in the first round of the playoffs at the very least. But as long as NYCFC is within grasp in that number 2 position and a bye, you've got to play for the win. You've got to play like this is the playoffs. I was talking to Veljko Paunovic at the Fire, the Section 8 party, the anniversary party, and you know, I said, you know, the playoffs have already started because every win now helps you in the seeding and helps you get potentially a better opponent. And I think also, you know, look, I did read today from the reporters that were out at training. Bastian Schweinsteiger did not train today. Juninho did not full train. So I'm interested to see what the Fire do to approach this game if Basti is not playing. There are some options here, and obviously Michael Deleu being out is a massive blow. So how do you organize this team? Bastian Schweinsteiger out. I would think you can bring Georgi Mihailovic in, play underneath a little bit next to Dax McCarty, and maybe play Lucho Solignac in the middle. What are the options to come off the bench? Because now the depth is impacted as well. But I think that's got to be the move that you go with if those two aren't available.
Yeah, especially at home. On the road, the last game there, I mean, Drew Connor played next with McCarty, and then obviously Deleu was there in front of him, and their normal 4-2-3-1 at home. Mihailovic has played very well, you know. So I think there's some options there for sure. The key thing for me also, though, you can't look past this game, but I think, you know, the question mark's still there with Schweinsteiger, you know, with Boston, because he's such a key component to this team. You know, one of the big reasons, you know, that the team is where they are, I think, for me, it's a big part because of him, McCarty, and some of the players around. You know, hopefully he gets in healthy, you know, to get at least one game, you know, before the postseason. So we'll see with that, and also with Juninho, experienced guys that, you know, you need them in a postseason run. So it'll be interesting to see which way they go at home. You know, if they sit back more, Philly, I think the ability to bring maybe Mihailovic, who's had very good games, his ability, you know, to combine, and his decision-making in the final third, technically, is very good, and he's coming off some very good performance with a lot of confidence.
I know you talk a lot on the broadcast on the road games, how important that first goal is. Do you feel the same way about a game, especially this, the last home game, Fan Appreciation Day, fans will be out there wanting to see something. How important is it for the Fire to get that first goal?
No, Paul, always. I just said, listen, it's better to be up a goal than to be chasing that. Even I told before, you know, like every time I watch a game and I'm home and it's like, you win 2-0, my wife goes, that's the most dangerous score in soccer. That's what you told me. I said, I know, but it's always better to be up 1 or 2 goals than to be chasing, you know, to come from behind. But, yeah, I just think it's like at home, I think the team has been great. They've come with a lot of confidence. You know, I think they pressed higher up the field from the beginning. They brought a lot of energy. They've been good with the ball. They've dictated the game, and they've been very good because decision-making, Paul's been good. Sometimes, you know what, they've changed things up. I think their movement's been very good. They attack to the middle. They get it out wide when it's on. The decision-making's been good. Their movement's been very good. And they have a lot of confidence being at home.
This is a game where I think the contributions of Brandon Vincent, Matt Polster play a big role. Philadelphia's biggest weakness for the last couple years has been their back line. They want to try to get the fullbacks forward, but the trouble with the center backs, the trouble defensively, organizationally, has hurt them. You know, that's why they brought Creval in to sit in front of those center backs. If you can overload, like the Fire like to do, pinch those wingers in, create overloads with the fullbacks, I think there are some areas where they can really win this matchup. But those two fullbacks, for me, they've got to be aggressive.
Another thing that I think is important as you get close to the playoffs is we were talking about Nico, how he was scoring a lot of goals. Then he went on that slump, that little thing where not scoring goals. Scored again. I saw him at the anniversary party, and I asked him, I said, where exactly was Morales going with that ball when Polster put the pressure on him? He said, I don't know. I was just happy he did. It's nice to see Nico starting to put the ball back in the net, especially at this time of year.
For sure. How long did it take him to answer that? Was it like, were you timing him or no? But he said to me also, I asked him the same thing, and he goes, Frank, My friend, he wasn't expecting me. I came from the blind spot. He didn't see me. I said that was a good move.
Frank, I could have scored that goal. Let's be
Well,
honest.
Polster did all the work. But
You know what? I think I agree with Paul because I think when you look at this Fire team, a big component, it's like the play of Vincent and Polster. You know, their ability now when they do get forward, you know, and I think they're both guys now that are very comfortable with the ball. So I think they get forward once that the ball is secure. So they play out of pressure. And then now they have the ability to control the game with the players that they do, and then they get forward in the right moment in movement, and then their ability in the final third to provide service, to combine, to link up, has been very good. And yeah, and I give a lot of credit to Polster on that one because he put all the pressure, and then Nico came from the blind spot and scored.
yeah, and that's what guys are like that Nico are supposed to do. Nice to see. Hopefully we get some more goals from Nico and the rest of the Chicago Fire coming up this Sunday at 4 o'clock start at Toyota Park. We come back, we'll take a closer look at Philadelphia and the problems they pose for the Fire this weekend. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by CIBC.
Go inside the lives of Chicago's biggest sports stars, only on Inside Look, presented by Cadillac. Your questions answered.
They got this big because basketball got this big.
Idols revisited.
They bring the atmosphere and the energy that you need throughout the grind of the season.
And the stories behind the headlines revealed.
Definitely a moment that I'll never forget.
Catch a new interview every month with Inside Look on NBC Sports Chicago. Visit NBCSportsChicago.com for listings.
Prudential asked these couples, how much money do you think you'll need in retirement? Then we found out how many years that money would last them.
How long do you think we'll keep?
Oh, you're gonna leave me back here at year 9? How did this happen?
It turned out a lot of people fell short of even the average length of retirement.
We have to think about not when we expect to live to, but when we could live to.
Let's plan for income that lasts all our years in retirement.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
WeatherTech. What goes in the liner stays in the liner. Laser measured for the perfect fit, front, back, and even up the sides. The ultimate protection for your vehicle. Order today at WeatherTech.com or visit our factory store in Bolingbrook. WeatherTech, proudly made in America.
The Illinois Lottery reminds you that luck is all around us.
Welcome back in Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by CIBC. Time for the Valspar Primer. Valspar, the official paint of your Chicago Fire. Jim Curtin brings the Philadelphia Union to Toyota Park this coming Sunday, a 4 o'clock start, the final regular season home game for the Chicago Fire. We talked a couple weeks ago saying, hey, Chris Pontius struggling, not scoring any goals. Well, he had some success against the Fire, didn't he?
Whoa. I think I said, watch out for my boy Chris Pontius.
Well, he was due, right?
And Frank said, this guy's had a terrible season. I said, watch out for my boy Chris Pontius.
He does. He always seems to, have a good season, an off season, good season. It depends when you get him. But you know what? He still has 2 goals, and the 2 goals came against the Fire.
Yeah.
And 8 assists. Look,
yes.
This is a team that's got some guys that can beat you. We talked about this last time. They've got talent. CJ Sapong is very difficult to handle. He's another inconsistent guy, but he can beat you at any moment. Chris Pontius, capable of taking you on one-on-one and scoring goals or sneaking into the box and cleaning up the mess as he did in the last game. Madhu Janin, another very good player, just scored for Bosnia in World Cup qualifying. So they have the pieces that can beat you. The problem is they really haven't put it all together, and defensively they've really struggled again this year, I think. And I thought in central midfield, defensively, they really haven't figured out how they want to play. But at this point in the season, you can play a little bit more loose. You can try some things and try to play spoiler a little bit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I want to see how they approach this game because either they play with, Medunin and Bedoya a little bit more attack-minded, or they blame centrally and they bring Insigne in and they get another creative guy. But, the bright spot in the back, I think this kid, Elliott, for them has done, really well. I mean, and then, obviously Blake is there, the right back. Rosenberry's back in the mix now. He's had a couple good games with Fabinho, but it's been hard for the outside backs to get forward as much because I think that haven't been as good in possession on the road. At home, they're a little bit different. They come with more energy. They press a little bit higher the field, but I agree with Paul. I think they have, they have players. They have pace in transition, athleticism with Sapong. They can play direct. They can win second balls. Maduninen is, for me, their best play maker. You got to make sure it's difficult. Bedoya is a guy, that's very good coming from those deep areas, deep spots, good on set pieces because of the service from Maduninen. Listen, they have nothing to play. They're playing for free.
Right.
I talked to Paul a little bit a couple of days ago, and I was saying, do you think they play some of the young guys? And Paul, you said that, what you read, they haven't earned the.
Yeah, Jimmy's.
Yeah.
He's an honest guy. You know him, and he's not been impressed with the development of those young guys over the course of the season, and he doesn't feel obligated to reward them with playing time. Again, we go into this thing, this balance that has to go. It's good to play your young players and develop them, but on the same time, it's also important that they earn their spots on the field and that you don't just hand it to them because of their age. And it seems like they really haven't done enough to impress Jim. Now, maybe that's changed over the last couple weeks and the break and all of that, but I don't expect to see the younger guys step on the field.
Yeah, I just feel this is a game at home, as well as they play. I just don't see the fire. Last home game,
right?
In front of our home fans, they're going to come out with the energy. I just don't see them dropping this game. I mean, there's quality that it can hurt you. We talked about the pieces. If it's Pico, who had a very good game, the last one, Pontius, Epps, they have some pace with Sapong, Meduninen. I just feel the fire home going into the postseason. They need to play well, which they will. At home, they've been fantastic, and I just don't see how, Philly comes ahead in this one.
Frank, you played in the league. How difficult is it for some of the bigger players and the guys up top to go into a game like this for Philadelphia when they only have 2 games remaining? They know they're not going anywhere. How difficult is it to approach a game like this?
You know what? I mean, listen, I think when you have guys with the right mentality, listen, you always want to finish, you play till the end, because I think this is the responsibility you have, and then that's the thing. And I agree, with Paul and also with Jimmy. It's like you're not going to make changes to the team because you want to put your best team out there, because you're also building for the future. And I think there's a responsibility with every player. When you step on the field, I think, you're still looking for them to improve as a team. And then also to show, from Jim's standpoint, to see like they're going to have some tough decisions to make in the end. But for the veteran guys, I think, whether you're a veteran, first-year guy, this or that, every time you step on the field, you have a responsibility and, the sense of pride that you want to try to improve, to do the best that you can for yourself and for the team.
We're just 2 weeks away from the playoffs getting underway in Major League Soccer. We come back, we'll take a look at the Eastern Conference. The 6 teams are set, but there's some jockeying around for spots 2 through 6. We'll talk about that. We come back. It's Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by CIBC.
We don't give up. We don't quit. We keep going. Day in, day out. We fight on. Why? Because we are champions. Be a champion.
Why would you go out of your way and wander around a warehouse for paint when you can just swing by your local Ace? Ace has top-rated paint like Valspar, can match any color, and mixes it with something that's hard to find. Award-winning service. Because the way we see it, if anyone is going to go out of their way,
It should be us.
it's the Ace Extra Mile promise. If it ever takes more than one trip to complete your paint project, we'll bring you what you need, and delivery is free.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
NovaCare is the right choice for all athletes. As the exclusive provider of physical therapy to the Chicago Fire, we know the importance of keeping you active. Our sports medicine program, along with our movement assessments, aids us in finding your weak link and designing a program for you. We offer a full array of home care products so you can continue your care when you're not here. To request an appointment at any of our convenient Chicago locations, visit NovaCare.com today. NovaCare, the power of physical therapy.
Welcome back in Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by CIBC. Frank Lopez, Paul Tenorio, Fred Hubner. If you missed the beginning of the show, we talked about the U.S. men's national team not making it. You can always check it out online at chicago-fire.com. You definitely want to see Paul get worked up. That was about a beer and a half ago. No. So it's something.
I went on a bit of a rant. Don't worry about it. I know my guys, you can tweet it out, tweet out my rant. Tell everyone I'm going crazy. My wife texted me and even said something about it. She hasn't seen me this angry in a while. So.
Well, yeah, you haven't been married that long. Just wait, give it a little bit of time. The Eastern Conference playoffs, or the Eastern Conference, the 6 teams are set. Let's take a look at the standings. Toronto on top, winning the Supporters Shield as they are at 65 points. They take on Montreal this week. Then you have NYCFC at New England. Now, unfortunately for the Chicago Fire, NYCFC plays at New England and then Columbus. Columbus at that time in the second game probably still battling for something.
No, for sure. But if I look at Atlanta, I think the game, they have the game this week. They're playing away to the Red Bulls.
Right.
You know, there's an opportunity. They're away, Chicago at home. Now you can maybe, you move above them, you know, because that's going to be a tough game with the Red Bulls. They're playing well right now. They want to, you know, they got, I think most of their players back healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Royer, I think, is back. I think he's been playing well. So they're feeling, you know, they're feeling good. They had a very good performance. The last game against Vancouver, I think 3-0 win at home. So that's going to be a tough match for Atlanta. So there's an opportunity to gain some momentum there, Paul. And then, you know, the last game obviously being away in Houston, you never know. We'll talk about that with the West, what that could mean. But I think there's still an opportunity for them to move up a little bit.
For sure that's there. And you've got to think about who you want to face. Right now you're in the 4-5 against Columbus. You move up to 3, it's the Red Bulls. You know, all of that weighs in. And I think, you look at that 2 seed and you wonder what's NYCFC going to do in the last couple weeks. Can we even jump up into that 2 seed, get a bye in the playoffs? All those things start to factor in. There's a lot to play for in the East. There's a lot of seeding left. Columbus is playing good soccer. You better believe they think that they can get a home game in these next couple of weeks with some good results.
Well, that's the thing. But both of their games, when you look at the schedule, they're both away. They play, they play away to Orlando and then away to NYCFC.
And Orlando now, by the way, it's never an easy game to go to Orlando, but it's Kaká's last game with Orlando City. He announced today he's not going to accept the 1-year contract offer that Orlando City extended to him. My sources tell me it would have been a significant pay cut for Kaká. He's decided that's not, he's done playing in Orlando City. So you can expect a sold-out crowd, a lot of pomp and circumstance to say goodbye to Kaká. And now you got to go in as Columbus and try to spoil that and ruin the energy that's going to be there. Let me tell you, when Kaká wants to have a top performance, he puts on a top performance. Yeah. Frank, sorry to bring this up. You experienced it back in 15. Yes. I was a journalist. They were down 2-0 at halftime, and Kaká decided he wanted to be Kaká. What happened? 2 goals.
Yeah, no, he scored 2 goals, but he didn't. When I saw Paul, he didn't even come to say hello. You see, he was avoiding me. But
let me tell you, I was just another journalist at the time. I was, for my own safety and security, I stayed away from you that day.
No, but you're right. And then the fact also you have him playing his last game, but also in Orlando, I think that they made it very clear that Jason Christ is going to stay there for next year. They're committed to that. So I think for those players that are playing this last game, not only for Kaká, but also just saying, listen, the coach is staying, maybe one less opportunity for us to make sure that we have a place here for next year. So, yes, not going to be easy. You're right.
Frank, I'm interested to get your opinion on this. 2 of the biggest players for the U.S. national team play for Toronto and are 2 of the biggest players for Toronto. Do you think that there's a hangover of sorts that occurs, an emotional hangover, for Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore going back to their club, especially Michael Bradley as the captain and leader of the national team, to now go back to Toronto, have to try to refocus on the season? There has to be some emotional...
Paul, that's a great question. There's no way that it doesn't affect you and bother you, because Listen, the one thing I know about Michael, he puts a lot into every game. You know, he's a guy that wears his emotions on his sleeves. He's the captain for a reason. He's a leader, and it's got to affect these guys, man. There's no way. This is a very disappointing loss for them and a huge, huge setback for them and for the national team, because for most of these guys, this could be their last opportunity to play at that stage, to represent the country in the World Cup. So, yes, emotionally, it's going to affect you for sure, you know? It has to.
It makes a team that's not been vulnerable suddenly potentially vulnerable. Michael Bradley, to me, has been the best player for TFC all season long, an MVP candidate. If he can't, and I'm not trying to say Michael can't, but it's like Frank says, it's impossible as a human being to not be affected.
You're affected. The only thing I can think of, because they were so close last year, they can maybe take that frustration, that disappointment, and just say, you know what, this is our opportunity maybe to be on top. You know, we've been so close. We had a great season, home field advantage throughout the playoffs now. Let's end it on a positive note, at least for us in this league.
Well, my only problem is Atlanta plays at the Red Bulls this week. Then they wrap up at home against Toronto. Toronto at that time, talk about nothing to play for. You know, are they going to give Bradley and Altidore a weekend off?
You know,
they wouldn't play then for 2 full weeks almost.
I know, that's my point. And Paul, here's to you. It's like, if I'm a player, I'm just thinking to myself, I mean, you go in, you want to be playing. I mean, you have that game, and do you play, do you not play? Because then you have 2 weeks break on turf. It's like crazy. That's a long break.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can lose your rhythm, your sharpness, and stuff like that. So for me, I disagree with that format. So it'll be interesting to see.
I think they'll play him. I think they'll play him for that reason.
Yeah, well, a lot of people probably will be looking at that and say this could be a preview of the Eastern Finals.
Sure.
But hopefully,
you got to put them on the field.
Maybe the Atlanta fans, not for our fans.
No, exactly. There's no way at all. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Western Conference. Don't forget the Chicago Fire wrap up their home schedule this coming Sunday, 4 o'clock at Toyota Park against Philadelphia Union. Get your ticket, chicago-fire.com/tickets. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by CIBC.
Benny? Benny? Where are you? Benny? 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 Oh, no.
The Great Haircut Sale is back at Great Clips. A price so low, everyone will go. Great Clips. It's going to be great.
Today we're going to talk about trucks.
Right on.
Which of these truck brands do you think offers best-in-class HD horsepower and the most capable off-road midsize pickup?
I go Ram. I would put it on Ford.
Let's find out.
Chevy.
That's right. It's Chevy.
They look amazing.
Wow.
Chevy's killing it.
Yeah, definitely.
Get a total value of over $10,200 on this light-duty Silverado All-Star. Or during Truck Month, get 0% financing for 72 months on our most popular Chevy trucks. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
I'm Jimmy. This is my definition of fresh since 1983.
Take a good look at yourself. Oh, yeah. Check that smooth backside. No, really, check it. If you're a man over 50, you're in the group most likely to develop skin cancer, including melanoma. When detected early, skin cancer is highly treatable. Check yourself out and find someone else to help. A message from the American Academy of Dermatology.
Welcome back in Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by CIBC. We talked about the Eastern Conference. If you think the Eastern Conference is close, another 6 teams are set. The Western Conference, the top 8 in flux. Everything can happen. Right now, we look at the standings. Vancouver is on top right now at 51 points. Kansas City 48. Then you have Portland and Seattle 47. Houston and Dallas in a battle, with Salt Lake and San Jose right there at 42. The top 8 in a battle. And the way MLS is doing it this week, all the Western Conference games start at 6:30. So it's going to be interesting.
And only one team has clinched the playoff spot so far. And the X factor here, Dallas was not docked a point for playing an illegal player against Orlando City.
Yep.
And right now is holding on to that last playoff spot by 1 point. How's it going to factor in?
Well, that's what I was just going to come back. I don't know what you were going to say, but I was just going to say for me, I disagree 100% with the decision from the league. There should have been a forfeit. There is no way that you find these guys and you don't deduct a point, you give them a point, because that makes a big difference. For me, that's a complete joke. I'm going to say that. And you can tweet that. You can do whatever you want. I don't care. For me, it's a joke.
Real quick, though, you mentioned, do you think they should have taken the point away from Dallas but not give Orlando points?
Well, that's what I wrote in my column, was when I spoke to league officials on Monday morning or Sunday night this past week about the issue. One thing they said to me is if they had made a decision to forfeit the result, it would have been a forfeiture of points, not a forfeiture of the game.
Okay.
In a tournament setting, they would have been forced to declare a winner and a loser, and it would have been a 3-0 result. But in a season, they would not have given Orlando City points. So that's an important distinction for Orlando City fans, but Dallas still would have been docked a point had they made that decision. And everybody I spoke to told me within the league, outside of the league office, that they felt this was the wrong decision, that it was an embarrassing decision for the league. And lucky for MLS, it got overshadowed by the U.S. missing the World Cup.
Yeah. Listen, but Paul, can you imagine if this guy Barrios came in and scored a winning goal or something?
I think if he had scored, here's the thing that doesn't pass the sniff test. If he had scored the goal, it would have been a different result, I think.
Yeah, real quickly, who do you think, is there one team in the Western Conference right now that's on a roll? Who's got the momentum going into these last 2 weeks?
I don't know about who has the momentum. For me, the best team in the West right now over the back half of the season has been Portland.
Portland has been, great. I'm at the top echelon. I'm just going to say Portland. I agree with you. I always pick KC because I think for me, I think no one does a better job than Peter preparing these guys. I mean, and they've been very consistent, a very tough team to break down. And I think I'll always put my money at KC. But I think as a team that's going in with a lot of momentum, I have to say RSL. This guy Petty's done a great job. I mean,
He really
2 games
has.
to Colorado away and then home against KC. Anything's possible.
This coming Sunday, the final regular season home game for the Chicago Fire as they take on the Philadelphia Union. Get on out there as they wrap up the home schedule. It is Fan Appreciation Day presented by Michael Hill Jewelers. As a thank you to Fire fans for all of the support this season, Michael Hill Jewelers will be at the match, giving fans a chance to register to win one of their signature diamond rings along with other great prizes. That's this coming Sunday at 4 o'clock.
I'm raising my hand because I want to say the final thing. My good friend here on the left, our good friend, his birthday. I don't even want to say how old he is because with the beard, I'm just going to let you know.
He's far too young.
His birthday this week, let's celebrate it. Not only his birthday, but with a big win on Sunday also.
Frank Lopez, Paul Tenorio, Fred Hubner, thanks a lot for watching each and every Wednesday. Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by CIBC, the official bank of your Chicago Fire.